what?
He gets titled, yeah, he had worked with me in the fire brand.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, well, you know, you gotta.
Hi, Mike.
He didn't hear you. Mike Tucker.
I said, hi, Mike.
Oh, how you doing, buddy? Good. I knew you were sitting back there. I saw your truck out there.
Yeah.
I saw your good-looking wife.
Oh, yeah.
I knew you were somewhere around here.
Call the meeting to order. First we'll have our invocation, which I will do. We are gathered here under the laws of nature and nature's God, earnestly desiring to secure the blessings of freedom undiminished to ourselves and our posterity with the guidance of providence and the supreme judge of the world. If you would please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you would do a roll call for us, Tracy.
Carrie.
Here.
Nola. Here. Christie. Here. Lee.
Here.
Renee. Here. Tracy, yes. Here. Jeffrey.
Yes. Next, we have approval of the agenda, so we'd like to make a motion.
I make the motion to approve the July 11th.
Do we have support? Approve the agenda from Karen, yes, all right.
Support.
And support by Nola, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have the approval of the past meeting minutes, and I would like to just make three small notes on this, and I showed Tracy that the part about the Duff sale going up should be marked to 4:30 p.m. instead of 4, so that'll be corrected. In that, a small note on the building inspector, it was 2 contracts that were condensing into 1 without changing the contract on his part. And then just on the final public comment, I would just like a little more there, different types of summarizing, just a little bit more there. So any other notes on the meeting minutes, otherwise I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the July 11th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Motion carried, do we have support? Support by Lee, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have the treasurer's report. And do we have any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, concerns about the treasurer's report? Hearing none, we'll place that on file. Next, we move on to paying the bills. And do we have a motion to pay the bills?
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Motion by Renee, and do we have support? Support by Nola. Any discussion on the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Renee. Yes, ma'am. Nola. Yes. Carrie.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Christie. Yes. Tracy, yes. Jeffrey.
Yes. Motion passes. Next, we have the fire department report, if you would, Chief Stevens.
90 requests for service last month, 8 minutes and 1 second, still well below the 10-minute average were requested to by the government. We're still ahead of everything, as we should be continuing to see the increase in calls this month. The squad is about 45 days or less. Just getting through paint, we're just waiting for some more backordered parts, but other than that, we're hoping and praying by the end of this month. We should have here another month or so to train what they get in service. We should have it on the road. I'd like to have it on by the middle of September, so I think we'll be all right. And I also have a special request for consideration, if I may.
You may.
In your package, you have a request for consideration requesting that the class status of Cheyenne Foster be changed from probationary firefighter to firefighter.
And do we have a motion to make that change?
I move to approve the promotion of probationary firefighter Cheyenne, right? Foster to that of firefighter.
Support.
Motion by Noah, support by Carrie. Any discussion among the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Go ahead,
Thank you,
Chief.
appreciate that. As you move forward in this process of becoming one of us. Tonight, Shy is doing that. The second most important thing is having your badge pinned down by someone who's important to you. So Shy, if you could please come up here, I'd appreciate it. You stand right next to me. You're tall, like your heavenly father, Brian, come on up. It's always kind of cool to see a parent pin a child. I think it's kind of neat. I had that luck once, but it's kind of neat to have it done. So Brian will give you her badge. And for the remainder of her career, that is her badge, and it will always be her badge. And when she needs her, that will always be her badge. So now move that long, flowing hair of yours out of the way. So I put you in two little holes. Please try not to stab her if you do. I know a couple of primers. Yep, one in the top part. Yep, right here. Skin. Exactly what you get. Just put it in the hole there and push it down. Perfect. Okay. You can give her a hug now. Well, now the most important part. You have the badge, which is kind of a thing for us. Now you have to attest in front of the clerk. She'll come down. I'm going to be nice and give you a sheet to read off of her. She's going to have you raise your right hand. You're going to swear in as an official firefighter for the Township of Dalton. So please stand in front of the clerk and raise your right hand.
I, Cheyenne Foster, do solemnly swear to do my duty as a firefighter for the Township of Dalton to the best of my ability.
Do solemnly swear to do my duty as a firefighter for the Township of Dalton to the best of my ability.
To serve the officers and fellow firefighters with respect and dignity.
To serve as officers and fellow firefighters with respect and dignity.
To serve the citizens of Dalton Township with compassion, courage, and integrity while following our vision of duty, pride, and tradition.
To serve the citizens of Dalton Township with compassion, courage, and integrity while following our vision of duty, pride, and tradition.
And to uphold the laws and constitutions of Dalton Township, the state of Michigan, and the United States, so help me God.
To uphold the laws and constitutions of Dalton Township, the state of Michigan, and the United States, so help me God.
Okay?
She's going to have you sign it. You're going to sign it there. Madam Clerk, if you would please place that in your file once you're tested, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. Now, since we are a paramilitary organization, it's something that we do. All of us carry challenge coins as a sign of our organization. They're not allowed to have those until they're truly one of us. So, Shy, it's with great pleasure that I give you that and ask you to carry it always. And the last thing, which everybody loves. When they get out of the department, we change their helmet shields and we change their tetrahedrons to make them look different than us. So we know who they are. Today, she gets to change to become one of us. So tonight when we get back over, she's going to get her new helmet back with her new stickers on it, and then she gets her temporary shield until her shield comes in. So great pleasure to give you that. You're now one of us. I respectfully ask that her family and I and the rest of my staff be able to go next door and do some pictures, and I'll return as soon as possible.
Yes, of course.
Good.
Yeah, thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you to the other firefighters that came out to show support. Excellent, and that's very good to see. We definitely, we need that. So, and, you know, I try not to be optimistic nor pessimistic. I try to be realistic, and realistically, our fire department performs very well, but we are getting a lot of calls for the number of people that they have, so. Great to see. And next, to follow that up is Lee with our planning commission report.
No pressure. Oh, that
We met July 26th, 2022. 2 items for public hearing, both were solar panel arrays. The first was for 685 Sanctuary Drive. Jim Cross, the owner, he was there in attendance. He had a gentleman, I didn't catch his name. I think he's heading up the project, explained the details. Motion approved. The second one is on 3224 East Tyler. No one was in attendance for that item. We took care of the public hearing portion, but no further action was taken. Then last, we had a discussion with Jeff and Steve, just a general discussion of the future ordinance changes and priorities, looking to clean up language and simplify to be more clear and concise for everybody to be able to read the ordinances. And that was it. Just a long discussion on how we're going to do that.
Perfect, thank you. Next, we'll move on to our first public comment on agenda items. If you could limit it to 3 minutes, come up to the lectern and let us know what you think on any of these items. There will be a second public comment and anything you would like at the end. And I do have 2 letters from people that emailed me that weren't going to be able to make it, but they wanted a public comment read. And so I'll read those first while anyone's thinking about also doing another public comment. The first one is on the dog park. The letter portion reads, "Good evening, my name is Michelle Mixa, and I'm a citizen and precinct delegate of Dalton Township. As I am camping out of town this week, I am unable to attend this important meeting in person. Thank you, Jeff, for reading my statement tonight. I am writing today in support of moving forward for a dog park to be installed in Dalton Township. Our area is in desperate need of a park for citizens to gather, get fresh air, meet each other, and exercise their dogs. Dog parks serve not only as a place for dogs to socialize and exercise, they are known to be a place where community is built between citizens and neighbors. Dalton Township will only be enhanced by building a dog park and will also make our township more attractive to those looking to move into our area. I'm in full support of the park being built, as well as a well and picnic tables, dog waste disposal stations, and double-gated entrance areas for human and canine safety being installed. I believe that Beagle Park will be a perfect location for this park, as it is a mix of sun and shade. I would like to thank the board for their support of this essential project that will be an immense benefit to our community here in Dalton. As I have been to many dog parks in multiple states, I'm happy to volunteer to help design and execute this project for our township." Michelle Mixo. And the second one is on the, she calls it the CARES Act, but really she's talking about the ARPA funds here and the boat launches. So, and this is from Nancy and Brian Cook. "Dear Mr. Martin, we are aware that the township has funds from the CARES Act that are yet to be allocated, and we would like to strongly advocate for a portion to be spent to dredge out and generally create a usable boat launch on Twin Lake. We have owned a cottage on the lake, 2951 Lakeshore Road, for over 10 years and have watched the boat launch deteriorate with each year to the point where we've had significant difficulty launching and removing boats and water sport vehicles at various times. With the extreme drop in the lake level in the past year, due we suspect to the changes in the drain system, we are fearful that we will not be able to launch our jet ski and pontoon this year or in the future. And even if we are able to launch them, we expect that we will have significant difficulty in attempting to get them out of the water at summer's end. Since the lake is the home of a county park that is widely used by individuals throughout the township and county, we know that there is a financial bonus to having a viable boat launch. We also are aware that there are a good number of rentals on the lake and that these bring in renters from across the state and nation every year. Many of these visitors bring water vehicles with them, fully expecting to be able to launch and use them for recreation during their time at Twin Lake. We also know that complaints and concerns about the boat launch have been registered with your office by other property owners on Twin Lake in the past. This situation is untenable and needs to be addressed aggressively if there is to be any hope of saving the life of the lake and the financial boon that is possible. As noted above, we are also exceptionally concerned and worried about the state of the lake in general. The recent work on the drain system has literally drained a significant portion of the lake itself and has left us with dwindling access to the lake. We're hopeful to see significant improvements on the launch site and hopefully positive action on the drainage system to return the lake to previously enjoyed higher lake levels. Thank you for your time and for receiving our suggestions and concerns. Nancy and Brian Cook. All right, 2 public comments down. Anyone else on any agenda items, feel free to come up to the lectern. Otherwise, we're going to move on to our items. And first one is the 2370 Duff House bid opening. And on this, we advertised a bit and had a number of people walk through the house. And I have 3 sealed envelopes that are all for Duff. I assume they are bids. And so I will open these in the order that they came in. First one They're all sealed, by the way. All right. As our instructions about being no later than this time on a given day. All right, my bid of $203,608 is contingent on the following conditions being met. Remove all structures, i.e. house, basement, shed. 2, remove septic tank and drain field filled with sand. 3, clear property of all debris and grade. 4, provide passing perk test. That's number 1. Number 2. Slide one. That's Michigan Regional Purchase Agreement. There's an escalation clause in here. Okay, this is a decent amount of paper, so certainly can't read all of that. I mean, we could, but I don't know if it would be left at the end. There's a letter embedded in here, to whom it may concern. Check to a title company. I assume this to whom it may concern letter is to us. The letter itself doesn't have an amount in it.
I can explain the offer if you'd like to, it's ours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you would like to, go ahead. Go ahead. You're obviously covered on paperwork.
Yes, so the offer is $165 and the escalation will go up to $207, $254. The escalation meaning if there's any competing bona fide offer, that we would go up to $207.
Okay, okay.
There's no contingencies regarding selling any properties, there's no contingencies regarding knocking down structures or soil, none of that. The structures and everything can be exactly as they are, taking the home as is, no inspections.
Yeah, okay. Yep, so 165 with the escalation of 207.
Correct.
All right, so that's the second one. And the third one. All right, and the third one is $200,100, and as is. Both parties, certificate of occupancy must be included, property be acquired as is, no inspections required, seller to assume all costs associated with sale. Cash offer must be done within 30 days. And this letter is not the entire purchase agreement. All right, so that is the third.
Make a motion to accept the second escalation. The highest is 203, so we're 204.
Well, okay.
The escalation, she's going up to escalating up just above the 203,608, right? That's
Above the highest
So-
viable.
It's up to
the highest is 203.
207 was the escalation.
In an escalation clause, correct, it would go up $7,000 over the highest, up to $207,254.
Right, so it'd be 207,254.
Correct.
So that would be the second one.
Correct. I make a motion to accept the second.
All right, so we have a motion for that.
Second.
And the second for that, so motion by Carrie, support by Renee. And obviously I haven't read through all of the documentation in here, but I assume it's a fairly normal purchase agreement other than escalation. Is that correct?
Correct.
right, any other discussion among the board? Well, I think, my discussion is, I think that's fair. It's technically the highest number overall anyways. 207,254, is that the exact number? All right. Hearing no other discussion from the board, we'll do a roll call vote.
Carrie,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes, ma'am.
Lee,
Yes.
Nola,
Yes.
Tracy, yes, Jeffrey,
Yes.
Christie.
Yes.
Motion passes. Yeah. All right, next we go on to money to the sewer debt. Obviously, we've been discussing this for a while. We did a motion on this before for $213,000. And that amount at the time, I could have said up to $500,000 like we were planning on. I was thinking by now we would have the numbers set. We would be good to go with the full amount, and we do one more transaction and it would work out fine. But realistically, because we have some things working on closing and those types of things, we have to do 2 more transactions. And the trust and agency fund is not the ideal place to be sitting and holding money. It's supposed to be where money moves through. And so it's sitting there for too long. And so basically, I wrote up this suggested motion in the way that it would go up to the $500,000, including the previous 213 that we did before, but we'll technically have to do 2 more transactions because we're a little over $200,000 to be moved over again into the sewer debt from the property sales. And then after that, it'll go back to going into the general fund.
I make a motion to approve transferring a total of $500,000 generated from property sales, including a single previous transfer from the trust and agency account to pay for sewer debt.
Support.
Motion by Renee, support by Carrie. Any other discussion on the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Renee,
Yes, ma'am.
Christie,
Yes.
Nola,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Tracy, yes, Jeffrey.
Yes. Motion passes. Next, we have the Lake Avenue and Duff Road street light. And this is an odd little corner when people are coming down Duff Road, especially at night. They tend to miss the corner and go into these people's yards. Now, a dirt berm has been built up there, but even since then, it's happened, and it was just a woman driving, she missed the corner. And she ramped the dirt berm and went through their shed. I believe their trailer's been hit. I believe the last one was going fast enough that she almost made it into the lake. Now, there's some cones set up there. The road commission is going to put up some chevrons, but there's already a pole on that same corner that there's not a light on. And I had inquired with consumers about putting one there, and they said, yeah, we can put one there, it's $100. And I said, well, go ahead and do it. And they said that we have to pass a resolution and sign a contract, whether we're doing something big or something small.
I make a motion to pass a consent energy resolution for the street light at Lake Avenue and Duff Road and to the associated contract execution.
Support.
Motion by Noah, support by Carrie. Any other discussion among the board? Roll call vote.
Nola,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Tracy, yes, Lee,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes, ma'am.
Christie,
Yes.
Jeffrey.
Yes. Motion passes. Next, we have increasing the credit limit. And this came up recently because there was a week where you could get a discount on one company for updating the website. And they take a card and went to put it on Tracy's card. It was a little over $2,000. She bought a few $100s worth of stuff for the elections, and so the card didn't go through. And I said, well, I need this transaction to go through either today or tomorrow. I believe it was a Thursday, so Thursday or Friday. And we couldn't raise it and couldn't let the transaction go through in some way. So I had to revert back to monthly, which is what the company normally does. I just skipped. I tried to go with 12 months so that it created less paperwork on our side. So I reverted to monthly to do that. But the fire chief's is already set at $5,000. This would just raise the clerk and the treasurer's cards each to that same amount.
So the card must have already had more than $300 all down?
It's like $364.
Right in there.
$364, okay.
Yeah.
I make, that's that, okay, so doing the math, I'm like, that should have went through.
Yeah, it was fairly close.
Yeah, it was close.
Well, I make a motion to increase the Dalton Township credit limit to 15,000, including both the clerk and the treasurer at 5,000 each.
Second.
Motion by Noah, support by Renee. Any other discussion on the board? Hearing none, roll call votes.
Noah,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes, ma'am.
Lee,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Christie, Tracy, yes, Jeffrey.
Yes. Motion passes. Next, we have resolution 2022-17 for ARPA fund expenditures. And in here, I've included a new lawnmower,
Yep.
a new truck, and then Catalpa Park. The lawnmower and truck, I have my guess, hard predicting board votes and elections in general. But I'm guessing most of us will agree on that. The Catalpa Park, I put in $20,000 for that. I have no problem with that going down. I become more resistant if we take that number up. Of course, there's only going to be a limited amount of stuff that can be done for any given amount. Essentially, you could write a blank check for any park project, as we know from numbers we've seen before. I think it would be good to just establish an amount, and basically I'll just organize getting the old equipment out and a few pieces of new equipment in.
Will we have any decision with the specifics that we will put in?
Well, I mean, we could bring more of that to the board if we want.
Just wondering, because we want to start frequenting. We didn't even know the park was there.
Sure.
And then realizing how close it is, we're like,
It's a sweet little park.
it
I
is,
like it.
but it definitely needs,
Well, basically, there was a dilapidated merry-go-round. It was wooden, broken, and that part is taken out, but the base is still in. There are some swing sets that are rusty and old and even kinked a little bit, and so those would be taken out, and there's some teeter totters that would be taken out. And then my general idea is up to whatever amount we may put in there of, putting in a swing set, one of the climbing. There's a lot of different options, of course, for playground stuff, one of the climbing things, just a couple of simple things like that, which add up oddly fast for that type of equipment, especially when you're doing commercial.
Does this 20,000 include removing those items, the old stuff?
With the $20,000, I would get someone to remove it and put in a few pieces, depending on how much is left out of that project.
Okay, next question, can we use our maintenance crew to remove?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Not to haul it off, so we can contact scrappers to haul it off?
Yeah, those,
I
right.
mean, come on, let's think smart here.
Yeah, those are all
Videos,
options. The swing sets can probably be taken apart, dropped apart, and thrown into the metal bin. The base of the one spinning device, that is a little bit, the merry-go-round, that one's a little stronger. I might have to get some sort of excavating company or something to scoop that out.
It's probably pretty deep.
But it seems to be pretty tough. But the other stuff would probably be taken care of internally, I would guess. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so taking the stuff out shouldn't be too bad.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2022-17 for ARPA fund expenditures, and let's put $20,000 towards the playground.
That's the way I have it written up in there, because I had to write it up in
Yeah.
some way.
Yep. Good at that.
Support.
All right, motion by Carrie, support by Nolan. Any other discussion among the board and anything in that resolution?
I would just like to keep updated on it.
Yeah,
I'm interested in not just numbers, I want to see what's going in.
sure, fair enough. Cool, all right, let's do a roll call vote.
Carrie,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes, ma'am.
Lee, Tracy, yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have Central Road paving petition. And obviously, we did one of these last year with Ms. Linda, and of course, I would expect a similar thing. People expect it to go smooth at the beginning, but then hit some bumps along the way as numbers come out and that type of thing. And it is a bit of a weird process. And so on this, Mark, he actually did this because he's wanted it for a number of years. He lived there for a long time. And the, number of people living there keep increasing, the traffic keeps increasing, but he thought it would be too expensive. Then he saw the price that Michelinda paving came in at, and he thought that was very reasonable. So that's why I went through the process of doing this. Now he's got 92% of the people to join, to sign the petition, and so a very high number.
And on the note on that?
Yeah.
Page 2 and page 3 are identical.
Almost.
Signed petitions.
Almost.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I mentioned that in my
last
brief.
names.
So there's a decent amount of overlap, but because he was getting signatures, even after the point where he thought he would have as many as he could get and was turning in, he got another one, and so I believe it's the last one on each is different. But I can't transpose that signature over to a different page, I mean, you could, but that would be unethical and illegal. So,
They are not included twice in the spreadsheet for the determination.
correct. Yep.
Okay.
And so, and then we have this before us, and obviously, if we pass this just like last time, the road commission would then drop numbers. Now it took a number of months before, but hopefully a little faster. The road commission would drop numbers, and then we begin that 4 resolution process, again, just like before with the 2 hearings,
Yep.
4 resolutions overall.
Right.
I will make a motion to accept the petition for paving the unpaved portion of Central Road between Bard Road and Road Township Road and for the road commission to generate a plan and cost estimate. Support.
Motion by Tracy, support by Lee, and the reason it says the unpaved portion is because part of the road was paved. Yeah, so I wanted to be clear on that. Any other discussion among the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Tracy, yes. Lee?
Yes.
Nola?
Yes.
Renee? Yes. Carrie?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes. Motion passes. Next, we move on to our discussion items, the first one being the lake channel easement and beach use. And so I visit the lake channels every now and then. Obviously, I think most of us would consider those a failed project, but want to look at them and keep updated on them and keep track of them, at least to some extent. And I've talked to the neighbors there, and often when I stop out, one of the neighbors will be out and I'll talk to them. And in this case, on the channel in between Twin Lake and Middle Lake, there's a township easement that runs down to the channel for maintaining the channel. And the one neighbor had said that people have been pulling up there and parking and walking down like a public easement. And which it's not. I looked up because I wasn't certain on it, so I wanted to look up in the paperwork. And when the contract was signed with the owner, which is this guy's neighbor, when the contract was signed with him, it specifically says that it's not a public easement. And so there's that aspect. And then he said at the same time, which he's been there for a few decades, I believe, he said at the same time people have been pulling their boats up to that section of shore and getting off of their boats onto land, and he's even in the morning found lawn chairs with people on them up into his yard. And he has part of it fenced off, and then I think part of it is because he keeps a green area where he lets it grow natural, which is healthy and good for the lake. So it looks a little wild, and he doesn't want to take that away. Nevertheless, it's still his property. And so I don't necessarily have a great way to address that, but he asked that it be mentioned in the meeting, so I put it on as a discussion item.
I would say sign.
Yeah.
Private property.
Private property.
He would prefer not to put out a sign. He hasn't had to put out a sign for the last couple of decades, and he doesn't want it to look that way. He doesn't, he thinks it would bring down the neighborhood a little bit to look. So we're doing this. If something doesn't change, I would assume that he will put out a sign that says private property and that type of thing.
What about,
Even a temporarily.
A nice wood-looking sign.
or the ones that are to the property, it's a little road or what that takes you back?
Well, so it comes, the easement itself comes off of Johnston, going towards the lake. So you can go that way. But it sounds like the people actually coming into his yard are people coming on boats, disembarking from the boats onto the beach area.
Okay.
Which you can be in the water. You can be in the water.
Facing the water.
You can be in the water by an inch, and that's completely fine. But if you're on the land by an inch, technically you're on private property.
Wow.
How are they supposed to know?
Right, without a sign, they wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, he hasn't had that problem there before. So I think there's some sort of change with the township having that easement for the channel. It's maybe brought in more interest into the area, something like that. So we'll see if the word gets around this way. Next, we have the dog park, which we heard everyone in public comment on. And so Vance Brown, which has done, does quite a bit of fence work in the area. I draw this up. And this is for commercial fencing, because it's getting heavier use for the double entry gates because of dogs and humans coming in and out, and wide enough gates so that equipment could get in and out. Now, it came back as a pretty penny, $30,000 for that approximately. For the galvanized, $26,800. For the black vinyl, $33,400. And if you're looking at adding a well to that, we can figure that's in the $10,000 range. And then the other little add-ons, but we're approximately $40,000 for a dog park at Beagle, if we wanted to do it.
So my question is, there's a building on site
Yep.
that has, I mean, I was there as a child, and I can remember using that as a child. We had family gatherings there. Does that not have facilities in it, and can it not be upgraded, be fixed up, to make that accessible to have water on site?
You mean make the fence around that building, something like that?
Possibly so, I mean,
And that goes
Are
out
you
the
just saying
parking
about
lot.
getting water to this spot? There's already a well there. Do we
Right,
have
just
a
running
second-
it over.
Yeah, do we have to have a second well, I guess?
That'd be a long distance.
Yeah, I guess
I'm not
it
sure.
depends on where the dog park would be, I guess.
Well, from my understanding, the dog park was actually on, what is that? Where you got the fence.
It would be on the northeast.
It's in the northeast corner there, away, it's next to the parking lot. You got the parking lot.
right.
It's rectangular.
Where the soccer
It's a
field's
chain
at.
link fence, you got the soccer fields right here, and the dog park is right off the same
Yeah.
fence.
There's a few trees in there, that's currently where the disc dogs operate. And so that's where this, and there's a decent amount of space. That's where this is drawn up as of now.
That's what was proposed.
And the water is needed to water the dogs?
Well, for water.
Yeah, I mean, it's a popular thing. I mean, for the amount that it is, I'm not a big supporter of the dog park. I know that, I mean, I actually know quite a number of people that are and really want one, but it's a decent amount of money. And from my perspective, it's the township has not done well at taking care of its parks. I mean, that's what we're looking at Beagle and Catalpa and these types of things historically. And so it was just like when we came in and we had the disc golf equipment sitting out back. It's like, are we adding things when we haven't shown that we've been able to take care of what we already have? And so that's my perspective on it. That would be my perspective from a citizen.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too, that building is renovated, that could be rented out, and that would generate income.
It could. Right now it's used as storage. I think it would take a decent amount of money to get back up and going again.
It's pretty rough looking.
My two thoughts, one is, I don't know, it's been, 9 months or more. We had a proposal for $155,000 per park. We were-
186 per park.
Yeah.
I knew it was a lot. We just approved $20,000 for Catalpa, which is hardly used. I granted that is also maintenance. So there's a difference here. But Beagle Park is used by a lot.
Yes.
Especially when you look at the size in comparison of Catalpa and Beagle. They're apples and oranges, they're hugely different.
Yes.
Right.
So, and I know that the dog parks, we drive all the way to Ferrisburg just to be able to have a decent dog park. There's a small one down, I believe, in Heritage Landing, but it's so small that our dogs need to be able to run because we have an Australian Shepherd. So it's very, to me, a dog park is it's a good, everything that Michelle listed, some of those things I hadn't even thought about until she put them in the letter. So I very much behind the dog park idea, and especially with everything that happened in 2020. A lot of people were shut in and then having nowhere to go. So outdoor spaces were highly coveted to be able to get outside. So that's my 2 cents.
We'd encourage a Friends of the Dog Park group to help with, because one of the concerns I have is people aren't going to clean up after for themselves, even if they, but
But there are always some.
I'm saying the dog parks we've been to, as long as they have those doggy,
the bags.
dog people that take their dogs to dog parks, 90% of the time, I even go around and pick up other people's if they've forgotten or haven't seen it, and maybe didn't realize their dog did. Almost every dog park I've been to has been very clean.
That was one of my concerns.
And definitely good concern. And that brings up one of the things I forgot about, is when we went out to Beagle Park last early spring, we noticed there were signs up on where the children play with the soccer fields or whatever it is out there, and there were signs that say, no dogs allowed. And I'm sure it's because people don't clean up after themselves, but they're obviously using it as a dog park.
Correct.
So there's obviously a need.
Because they're gonna use it anyway.
Correct.
Might as well give them an area where it's accessible and legal,
And accountable.
and they're welcome then.
Yeah, there is that, but I mean, you have issues with dogs in all of the cemeteries, all of the parks. So that's, I mean, a common thing everywhere.
But letting them run, and there's, maybe in a cemetery, I can see that could be a problem, but most of the time, they're not even completely gated. And
Correct.
we've taken ours to Duff Park, because we can both, he can guard one door and I can guard the other, or entrance, I should say.
Right.
So we've taken them in there, we clean up after our dogs, but we notice a lot of people don't,
Can that be used as a dog park?
and that's a possibility, but I don't know, where does Duff Park fall on with the Dalton Township? Is that a private, or is that ours?
So Duff Park is a township park that sits on the gun club's land on a lease.
Okay, see, it's a better clubs.
So is it possible for us to put money into that, or is that not?
Oh, it's certainly possible for us to put money into this.
So what are the thoughts on that?
Then your ticket would fall to the ballpark.
It's not been a full sense of
It's not really,
It has limited use as a ballpark. I mean, some people use it, I drive by and I see people use it, you know, not necessarily tons, of course.
Probably costs a lot less money.
right, 'cause it's already fenced in, yeah, it's already fenced in.
Right, you just have to do the gated part.
Right.
There's one gate in the back and you get two open on the side.
That's true, I could see what Vance thinks about converting that, essentially.
Oh, make it better.
Is there room for, like, big dogs and small dogs? Because sometimes there's two.
Potentially, I think so. I liked that. That's the one thing that we do love about Ferrisburg, because we have, our dog can tend to get very,
Aggressive.
she's an alpha.
She's an alpha.
So whenever we've gone there and we've noticed she's gotten aggressive with her dogs, we just take her into the small area, or we can, but it's nice to have the two different places where they can still.
And that's the way this was drawn up, is with a small dog and big dog area because of that. You know, I think there's multiple issues with the decision in general. One, you could really skimp on the money with something, you know, a tiny little area that's fenced in that isn't going to work very good, and then it kind of adds to that issue of not having these very good facilities. And then also the balance of, like, I mean, the bike trail is, as I said on that commission, is short of money, right? So we could use about an extra 60 grand this year on the bike trail, which we don't have. It's not coming from anywhere, right? And so with those types of things, I'm more on the side of taking care of what you've got. And if everything you have is going well, then adding stuff is more of a discussion. But the idea of looking into Duff as a more cost-effective option, I think is also reasonable. I did not have Vance quoted, obviously.
For example, if we did go after the idea of converting Duff into a dog park, it could still be accessible for children if they wanted to go out with their moms and dads, whatever, go and play on the field. Like you said, it's not full size, but it's still obviously used for that. And number two, we could put $20,000 into that with a well, which does not have, even if it is just to provide water, not necessarily bathrooms, because there's, I believe, a porta potty.
We put a porta john out there, yeah.
So then you've got, well, you're still under 20,000, which we're putting into Catalpa, and it's maintenance too. So I think that might be, I hadn't even honestly thought about that as an option. I like that option a lot. Cost effective.
Is that, then how we want to move forward, is that we get some numbers on that?
Maybe we should look into that, actually.
Look at it as an option.
That would compromise.
All right, next we have mandatory water connection appointments. And so this basically an FYI of this coming down the pipeline. I included in here the ordinance as it currently sits, and then the one that is proposed. There's one handwritten note to the proposed one because there's going to be an exception if a well isn't contaminated and you still have to hook up to the water, but you want to use the other well for irrigation, that type of thing. So that's being written up. And basically the discussion started because in some of the townships, I mean ours included, but especially Muskegon Charter, you have people far enough off of the road over 200 feet that they're exempt, and therefore if you have too many people that are exempt, you can't pay for the system as it's going through. And so it was looked at of cutting down exemptions. Now that's been taking place for a while, right, the discussion, brought it up a couple of times, and in the end it didn't come out that way. It ended up coming out a little more flexible or a little less restrictive than it was originally, is how it's written up now. Questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, concerns?
One of the things I didn't appreciate in this, it says, and there will be a note added that non-contaminated wells can be left even in the case of a mandatory hookup for things like irrigation. So people wouldn't be able to have drinking water if their well wasn't contaminated. They could only water their, I mean, help me understand that statement.
Yeah, so if you hit one of the things where you had to mandatorily connect, right? And then you, at that point, it would normally be that you couldn't use your well, right? Your well's gone. But why do that if a well isn't contaminated
Yeah,
along
because
there?
it states non-contaminated wells
Correct.
can be left, even in the case of a mandatory hookup for things like irrigation. So why would there be mandatory hookup if the wells are not contaminated?
Because it goes down the road and that's basically how you pay for the piping.
Well, it's these qualifications, right? So the events requiring connection. And so if it goes by your house, the nearest building is within 200 feet of the line, you end up selling it, then you have to connect within 120 days. Well, so in that case, if you have a well that's not contaminated, then you can, why not allow that to continue to be used for things like irrigation, cleaning, that type of thing.
Why don't they do it the way they would with gas or electric, or not electricity, but gas or sewer? You have an option to connect later on. I mean, why would they force people to do that, other than the fact that they want more revenue to get it done?
So on this, when, like, the one project we're looking at, right, realistically, there'll be one project that maybe goes in the next decade, and it's that one along 120 because the hot filed for the grant, right? And that, you know, maybe it'll go. And so on something like that, they run that by all of those houses, they loop it back around to River. Those people wouldn't have to connect, right, when it goes in initially. And so, but if you meet one of the qualifications down the road, then you have to connect. And if you decide to connect on that one, it's the indirect connection.
So this will be drawn up for only that area of our township?
No,
Or
no,
is this
no.
going to include all of Dalton?
This is, right, this is the ordinance. The ordinance, the first one that's in here is the ordinance as it is now. And it's not just the ordinance for Dalton Township, it's because there's the Water System Policy Board. So it's multiple municipalities, right? So it's us, Muskegon Charter, Laketon, and Fruitland. And so those four supervisors sit on that board, 3 of the county commissioners sit on that board. That board ends up putting together things like this, and then they have to pass at the local municipalities as well.
What are the follow-up requirements?
Actually, Peter, do you want to just, you can read this ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah.
I talked to Kim Sear today, I called him on this, and my biggest thing is, there's one word that I will not support. Mandatory, no. You can draw it up 14,000 different directions. No, I should not be forced, just to bring down the prices of everybody else on the road, to take in water that I don't trust. And I don't believe that that is not something we should be
Give them
telling
the option if you
people.
would like it or not. It's not forcing them, so.
Their option.
Mr. Supervisor,
Yeah,
as a citizen asking,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm just trying to read all this. There already is a mandatory connection in the current ordinance, correct?
Correct.
So the word's already there. The word mandatory, if they've already been mandatorily requiring this.
Correct. So, yeah, I
They're just
mean,
cleaning the verbiage up. So
correct.
we're not changing anything.
And
It's
making
already
it a
mandatorily
little
there.
more liberal than the original sentence from the Latin libertas, meaning liberty.
So it, okay.
Because of the, being able to use it for irrigation.
That, and if you look at the ordinance as it is now, you have alterations to the following extent, which require a permit according to plumbing or building code adopted by the township, plumbing 50% change or alteration in existing plumbing, building 25% of the then current state equalized value of the structure. So that section is also eliminated. The 200 feet aligns with the county and state laws on sewer. Our attorney had mentioned that.
This basic requirement says if you got plumbing, you gotta connect.
That's what I see too.
Which is pretty much common throughout the state. On sale, for example, it's,
So they're
I don't currently have public water supply in my home. Why would I want it?
Because if it became available, you would have to.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but that's strong arming.
Exactly. That's our stance.
The line is going into, correct an issue. The top has noted.
That would be that specific project.
Right, so, I mean, but that's,
But that's the start of it.
You know.
Once they get a foot in and keep going, that
It's
means
very
they're gonna wanna do
slippery
it more.
That's,
Right.
yeah, that's the
Right,
end of
and
it.
it's-
After that's done, you don't have any recourse, right?
That's right, kind of where we are.
They got your money,
Yep.
they got you on the dole.
And they can shut you off at will.
Yeah, I would just as soon head the other direction, get off of the public
Well-
support
Well,
system.
right, do we want to, we can turn that project down. I mean, I have to send
Think about it.
one message to shut that project down. Now, if you're doing water in the future, you just cost the people that are now getting it millions of dollars. Right? You just build them millions of dollars that they wouldn't have had to be built.
It's like strong arming.
No, I'm saying you would if you turned the project down, right? And so it's a legitimate decision. It's a decision worth millions of dollars.
in this case, this project is being paid for by a grant. If we said, no, we don't support it and the grant goes away, we could be on the line to pay for it.
Well, and Dalton's done it before. Dalton did it with the sewer, when the grants were
Yeah.
available, and then it was rejected, and it went to Eggleston, and then later Dalton installed the sewer, and it's been a major financial issue since 2006 that I will have cleaned up in the next few months, for the first time in a couple of decades. I mean, it's,
This was past the buck.
big issue.
Well, what it basically
What's
boils
passing
down
the
to
buck?
is,
It seems like this just keeps getting pushed on, because,
well, what this is coming down to.
On the ordinance?
yeah, this.
No, the ordinance has been being discussed by the water
Jeffrey,
policy.
there's this in here. This sounds like a centralized government issue. If we take the money, we're giving in to what they want. If they want to say, no, you can't do it, then we have to not do it. We're not allowed to, because now we're entering, because you're taking their money.
Yeah.
With the state?
The Fed, the grant money, wherever it's coming from. If you're taking that money, blood money, let's call it what it is, blood
That's
money.
right.
Okay, are we going to be centralized or are we going to be independent?
Well,
Well,
so-
I'm just saying, because if you take the grant money, that's what you're doing. You're taking the money, saying, well, yeah, sure, we'll take the free money.
But are you proposing we cut our budget?
We're paying for it.
53% of the township budget comes through state revenue sharing. It's not like we're self-supported.
State and federal are two different things.
This is state.
My
So
point
state
is-
and state are the same.
I don't want to interrupt this meeting, but my point is it should be optional. I mean, if people want to hook up, hook up.
But that's not an option on the table.
Right.
It's already
But it
there.
should be a
It's
discussion.
It's
already
already,
there, they're just
Right.
cleaning up the language.
they're actually
There's always
giving
been a mandatory
more,
connection.
Your option is to make it a slightly more liberal, slightly more exempt, right? Or to make it not so, and maybe get a lawsuit. If Dalton, so if we don't get on board with passing the mandatory connection ordinance as adjusted, Dalton will then be more restrictive than the other municipalities, right? And so I think in that capacity, it's likely that we don't have a lawsuit over it, but, I mean, why? What's the upside? What's the advantage of not having it?
Individuality, choice.
Freedom.
So you would rather have the more restrictive mandatory ordinance?
How's it more restricted?
How's it more restricted? I have my own well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
I
the
have
way,
my own water supply.
Let me read
Him
it.
electric bill.
1805, mandatory connection. The water distribution system of any building in which plumbing fixtures are installed shall be connected to a public water supply if available. Where a public water supply is not available, an individual water supply system shall be provided. Public water supply system shall be deemed available to existing premises used for human occupancy if such premises are within 200 feet of a street, alley, or easement containing public water supply, and a connection conforming with the standards set forth by the plumbing code and by local regulation shall be made thereto. A public water supply system shall be deemed available to any proposed premises used for human occupancy where the property on which the premises is to be located is adjacent to any street, alley, or easement containing a public water supply, and a connection conforming with the standards set forth by the plumbing code and by local regulation shall be made thereto. It shall be mandatory for that residence or establishment to connect to the system whenever any one of the following occurs: A, sale of a residence or establishment by deed, land contract, or other conveyance. Said connection upon such transfer shall be made within 120 days of the date thereof. B, new construction. C, new well replacement, or well repair requiring a permit from the Muskegon County Health Department. D, alterations to the following extent which require a permit according to the plumbing or building code adopted by the township. 1, plumbing, 50% change or alteration in existing plumbing system. 2, building, 25% of the then current state equalized value of the structure. So that is what you guys support.
No, that's the thing. And I know what you're trying to do here. You're trying to fit the language with the new one here.
Those,
Section 5.
right. Those would be the options.
This is between this one or this one. That's what you're saying.
yep.
Right.
What they're showing us is that every opportunity that they get to force us to hook up, they're gonna
No.
take.
No.
No, why not?
Mr. Martin, where is the public water supply in this township?
So it runs up Whitehall Road. It's a little, there's a little bit down in that southwest corner, and then I believe along the river where it mirrors the.
Where's the supply come from? Where's the water supply?
Yeah, so there, I mean, there's nothing that anybody can do to remove that.
The water system that's in there?
So this argument about being able to optionally hook up, I mean, your argument is really null and void because there's no public water out that way.
Well,
Yeah.
they're talking about bringing the water
Yeah.
out here
For
and
now.
then having us hook up to it.
What about 10 years down the road?
I think that when that would come up to the board to vote on putting that in. So
In that
at that
fact-
point, you would have the option to say, no, we don't want your public water here.
You could put it to vote for one.
Right, but so
Or-
arguing about what you guys are arguing about right now
Doesn't make any sense.
doesn't have anything to do with this.
Well, so discussion is not.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you guys is.
That's all they're
Yeah, go
doing.
ahead.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
the
that's
language.
about-
I'll
Not
try,
whether we're gonna have it
if I
or
may,
not, just
if I
how
may,
it's
please.
gonna be the language.
I'll try to explain it the best as we can, because I probably know the water system better than anybody.
I'm sure.
It runs down River Road and stops before Sheridan. That is on the Muskegon Charter Township side. There are 3 pipes on the Dalton side on River. It runs down Whitehall Road, from River all the way up Whitehall into Fruitland Township, that's where Fruitland's involved. It also mirrors off onto McMillan down the first 3 blocks, which is Hamilton, Blair, and Keller. That is the only place there is pipe except for the industrial park. This is not anything to do with it's going to come to Twin Lake or the Village of Lakewood Club or anywhere up here. The only reason this has come up, secondary to the connection fee that's already there, which if anybody remembers, I wasn't even here, but in 2004, when they quote unquote mandatorily forced everybody on Whitehall Road when they first put the pipe in the ground in '06, and nothing has been put in since, and there's no plans to put anything in. The only reason is the hop, because they have contaminated water, and that was at their request.
Correct. Yeah, they
The
put it
water
in.
comes from the Water Policy Board, it goes nowhere else. The mandatory connection, I just wanted to clarify, that's why I asked. The mandatory connection has been there since 2006. If you want to be in that area, then you will have to connect. But there is no plans, and I'll probably speak incorrectly, but I will tell you that I don't believe in my lifetime there will be water anywhere near where we are sitting right this minute.
Right.
Got it.
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it, because there is the money that it would take to put that system in is impossible. I understand, I don't want anybody to be forced to do something.
Right.
But the system has already said you're forced.
Well,
They're actually making
like
it
the
more.
system.
Correct, but
That's
they're.
what we're doing.
But they're trying to make it better to say, hey, if you already have this, we'll make it a little easier on you. If you folks vote the way, when this becomes a decision, not a discussion.
Yeah, it'll be a voting issue.
When you vote, you're going to say that we want to be more restrictive than what the actual Water Policy Board says we really want to be a little.
Which is
less
why
lenient.
we
want to
might
be
not
more
get in the
lenient.
lawsuit.
Right. They wanted to make it more lenient. If you vote saying, no, I don't want to do this, then you're going to be more stringent.
Right.
Thus taking away from the constituents you're trying not to harm.
Correct.
That's-
And the initial movement was to make it more strict. It's a relatively solid win for me and Sear. If we were going to go in the direction of everyone on the property that abuts water has to connect, unlimited space. Or if we wanted to make it, there was a discussion of 700 feet back, of extending it, right? And so for the people that like Libertas, it's a relatively strong win. But it doesn't matter. We'll vote on it when it comes up, because it'll go through the Water Policy Board. It's a,
Great discussion.
it's a, be interesting. We'll see, if we don't vote it through, then I'll try to avoid the lawsuit still, but it'll be interesting for me either way.
What is the other options for the hot
And at that point, the person.
Well, the how, so on that project specifically, they can do filters, which I connected them with the Muskegon County Health Department about getting a filter installed by the county at the county's cost on that. The HOP went out on their own and got this grant. That's what triggered it through the state down to the Water Policy Board. So they did some work to put that in, but that's how the whole thing got triggered, so. And realistically, they should put in a filter even if they get, city water, so. Either way, it should be in there. Yes. So. All right, next we'll go on to the cell tower proposal. And there's another proposal for renegotiation of the cell tower. We saw one before, and apparently American Tower is pushing on this, I guess. This one was a bit different, and it came through another company, Tower Alliance. And this is a proposal to, they're saying that they haven't been able to hook up as many people as they want, and this is to bring it more in alignment with the agreement that they have with Verizon, which is a 2% annual escalator. But it would be a reduction of the monthly income from $1,445 to $1,220. If anyone else, any other services are added on, $150 per month for one of those, but we haven't had any yet. We had one inquiry in the area that we looked at before for the proposal, but when I got back to them, they never responded. So if they went on there, that would kick in. a 2% annual escalator starting this year, replacing the 15% that would start in 2023. And then the last two are, I guess, maybe the bigger options that would be like benefits. The one is to amend our agreement with them so that they don't have the option to terminate yearly. Because right now they have the option to terminate it every year. This one they would sign out through 2027, and then a one-term payment of $7,500, which if you run the numbers in a general sense, currently would approximately make up the difference for about 36 months, but if you run the difference, because we don't get the 15% increase, we get the 2%, if you run it there, it's probably about 18 months difference. And so, well, anyways, that's, this is their proposal. Thoughts, questions, ideas?
Steve?
Yeah, I mean,
It's not gonna make or break this.
it wouldn't make or break it. I don't think it's that great. I mean, it's better than before, where they're saying that they would sign it, so they would have to do it out for a number of years. There's $7,500 up front, along with still a 2% yearly escalator. Like, it's not horrible. Realistically, are they going to take the tower down if we don't do it? I think is the big issue, and I can't tell. But there, I think you have a double hit, because one, you have the income for the township itself, but two, and probably more important, you have the reduction in service in the area. And so I certainly wouldn't want that if people having worse cell phone and internet service in the area. But is it realistic that they're actually going to take that down if they don't get these adjustments, this reduction of a couple $100 a month? It doesn't seem extremely realistic to me. But it's hard to predict, correct. There's a decent amount of uncertainty, and I mean, they're a large corporation with their own set of bureaucracy. So who knows if they even know.
So, if we don't, maybe this would become like next month, if we wanted to, or something like that, or?
Correct. If we wanted to make the adjustments, I can bring it for a decision next month. If in general we say we aren't interested in it, I don't even have to bring it as a decision item.
What, I guess that's the question, what happens if we don't? Are they gonna continue to get paid? Are we still gonna get paid?
They will
The original
continue,
the other
correct.
contract that's already
Yep, so if
paid?
we don't sign a new contract, our contract continues. Now, technically, they can get out of that every year with a 90-day notice. But, are they going to do that or not is hard to tell. And it's, I mean, Tower Alliance, speaking on behalf of American Tower, which leases a tower for Verizon, because they have a contract together.
So then if it's taken down, we lose Verizon accessibility?
But we would lose whatever service area that tower gives, correct. So that would be bad.
That'd be bad.
That would be bad. Correct. That. And if I knew that they were going to do that, I would say, well, yeah, we have to approve something, we want to keep it in place.
We want to keep it in place regardless from you.
Well, correct, I want to keep it in place regardless, but we don't have to do anything if it's not going to be lost to save it.
Can we negotiate?
We can negotiate, this is partially negotiated because I have. That's why we have the little bonus and we have the amount going out, and the amount isn't down to like 1,000, it's at 1,220. Because I said a few times, I'm probably gonna need something more before I even bring it to the board. Probably gonna need something more before I even bring it to the board. I've done that a few times. But I haven't been able to tell in my discussions if they're even going to realistically look at taking the tower down, which I think is, probably maybe the major concern, in addition to the monthly rent. But
And even if they take the tower down, I mean, if they leave it there, can they turn it off?
I don't know if that's in the contract. I would assume so.
With a 90-day notice.
Right, but I don't know if that would be useful to them in any way. No one's mentioned it, at least.
Incentives on their side, that's what they want. They want cell towers, they want to know where people are at. So they're not gonna back away from that. They're gonna want to put up more.
Yeah, and there seems to be a little bit of a movement both ways on this. It's a large dynamic industry for sure. So, I mean, I am comfortable with saying that we're fine with the contract the way it is. We wanna leave it in place. Now, if they actually started making, if they gave us like a 90-day notice that they were removing it because their numbers don't quite work, then putting on the brakes at that point, we're not gonna get a great deal,
Right,
of
exactly,
course. Because
exactly.
we'll be in a weak position.
I mean, I'm okay with amending 15% escalation. That seems like a high number.
Well, it's 15% every 5 years, so it's 3% a year. It's calculated differently.
Right.
2% a year,
Gradual.
which is the contract that American Tower has with Verizon.
To swallow then 5 years you get.
Slide.
Well, and that's why they're negotiating it now, because that 15% comes up in the end of 2023. I mean, we can also, leave it. I can give the word that we're not interested in it and see if there's any word back. We can say that we're willing to move forward, but we need something else. We could.
So the 15% bump, we haven't had anything for 5 years at the end of
Correct.
23. So we need something for that,
Before that bump.
for that gap, because then we're really absorbing it for the 5 years, then getting 15%.
Correct.
Yeah, that would be that one-time payment to cover that, well, cover that loss of like
Helps that bridge that, with the proposed gap in pay from 1220 to 1445, at those numbers, that would cover that gap for 36 months. So it would be a 3-year coverage.
When's the decision due on this one?
What was that?
When is that decision due on this one?
There is no decision due. It's just an ongoing negotiation of, just an ongoing negotiation. I'm sure they have their deadlines. They obviously want to have something in place before November 1st of 2023, when the percentage kicks in. There's a decent amount of time before that. Do we want me to get back to them again and say that it would have to be a little bit of a better deal in some way?
We can negotiate something or not.
All right. Yeah, let me do that
Yeah,
and
see if
see
we
what I
can
hear
do
back.
There's gotta be something better than that.
I mean, just a little
It's
bit.
already been increased a few times, but, so I'm not sure how far they're willing to go. And next we have the vacation policy. And so on this, there are obviously a ton of variables. So I wrote up a version so that, we can go through and anyone can suggest any change that they would like.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Years worked, weeks earned. First year, 1 week, 5 days. Line under that says, during the first year, time will initially accumulate at the rate of 1 day per month. So help me to understand this. 1 day per month, that's 12 months in a year, that's 12 days. Not 5 days. I'm a little confused, and do they have to have their first year fully in before they can draw on vacation?
Yeah, Christie had the same thing. So this is apparently not well written. I will propose that someone else write the next version. No, both of those things would make no sense.
Right.
Right, and so in your first year, so day 0 through day 365, it would be the 5 days becoming available. And you can set it up so that 5 days of vacation are available on day 1.
Right.
Or you can say you can't take any vacation for the first 4 months or whatever it may be.
No, that makes makes sense.
This is just a way to incrementally increase it, so that after 1 month, you now have 1 day available. After 2 months, you have 2 days available, up to 5.
Just remove that line.
During the first year,
Oh,
then you-
so.
Remove that line,
As
make,
it reads right now, the first year they get 17 days, and that's just
it does
accumulated
not
of
read that
all
way right
this.
now.
It has,
It
Certainly.
just needs the up to.
yes,
I mean,
it's clear as mud.
Otherwise,
Right.
Differently, but
so what that's attempting to do is have a probationary period
right, so
where
you're
they're not.
proposing that 5 days of vacation is available on day 1. Right?
That's what I had my job. They gave me PTO time after.
for the
After the
first year.
PTO is available from day 1. There isn't one of those mechanisms.
How that
Well, I'm
reads
saying
to
that's
me
not
is
vacation time.
this person will get
Paid time.
5 days at her 1-year anniversary. That's how I'm reading that. They get 5 days at, so Andrea was hired last October, so this October she'll get 5 personal days, or excuse me, 5 vacation days. Plus,
Oh,
she
she'll-
will get another 12 for each month she worked.
Yeah, that would be nonsensical.
Yeah,
That's
so
how that
we're
reads.
taking
That's
that,
how it's written.
we're taking that line right off.
Thank you.
So, and then, so we've got 0 to first year. So we could say in your first year, you have 5 days available?
No,
You could
it's
say-
after the first year, after they've pulled 1 whole year, then it should be available.
You're saying no vacation for year 1.
Right. Work at least 1 year to have vacation.
Unless they start in January and they take 5 days in June and then they quit, they just got 5 days of vacation for a half year.
Exactly. And we
Yeah,
have
but
a high turnover.
He's required to pay it back.
We've had a high
I mean, you
turnover.
could do a,
Yeah, the management's been rough, so I mean, that, correct. That seems, I mean, that seems more intense.
Well, how about like an accrual rate, let's say,
I-
0.4 hours of vacation day, every day.
There are places that do that.
That's how I did with the state.
Yeah, a lot of times, I believe the state and the feds do it that way.
Yeah, you accrue extra, you know, after 1 year, you're at like 0.6. And at year 3, you're at like 1.1. So it keeps going up. The more time you put in, the more time you accrue.
Correct. Per pay period.
Correct, it's per pay period. So every 2 weeks ago, you get X amount of time.
So the longer your loyalty, the more your,
The more you're rewarded.
which makes sense.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it would be weird to write a proposal that didn't include something like that. Just like this, the more years you have, the more
I
weeks you
see
get.
your,
Right.
the attempt is here.
By the time I retired, I stayed for 20 years, I was accruing 8 days every month. No, 8 days every, no, what was it?
Don't look at me.
It was 8.7 hours of pay period.
All right. And so basically, the first one should probably be 0th year to be, or no, because you want it not in the first year, 0 vacation in the first year. Where's everyone else on 0 vacation in the first
I
year?
don't think so.
And-
I think they should accrue something.
yeah.
Well, if they go into second year, they can draw on that.
Well, that's the whole thing, if you're not allowing to, this, like Mary said, you start saying December, January, you gotta wait till December, January, to even get a week off.
But you have paid time off, you have paid sick days.
You have
That's,
paid zero.
this is vacation.
Right, I'm talking vacation, yeah.
It's vacation, and it's like,
Well, it's separate.
I like how Renee had worded it, that somebody gets hired in January, in June they decide to have their full 5 days, and then they say, you know what, I like my vacation, see ya. No, they've just taken 5 full paid days, and they've only worked
Yeah,
6 months.
but that means we're doing very poorly at hiring.
Yeah.
That's what's the
Well-
likelihood.
You're
Well,
not vetting the people properly.
These days?
that's just.
I like the idea of the way, and I haven't heard that before, that's news to me, I haven't worked for the state, but I like that they earn it per month,
Per pay period.
per pay period, because then it's benefiting them and it's also giving them the advantage to be loyal.
Incentive to keep in.
The incentive, that's the word.
Yep.
And they make the time until
So that was that first
next
next
year.
year. That's fine, that's the whole
Right.
thing we're talking about, probationary period. So you have to work 1 month and then you get 1 day. You have to work up to 5 months to get your 5 days in your first year.
Yep.
That's what
That's the
that
That's what it
probationary
is.
period.
Correct.
So you can't just renew that.
That's pretty, like I said, you can quit after 6 months and get 5 days.
But if you set it, if you actually set a whole day, you do like say .4 in 2 weeks.
I'm just
So
saying,
it's
it's
like
gonna touch
.4,
If you lost it,
We're gonna have some that don't take it because we don't get any vacation.
most people don't, so I'm just gonna leave it and I'm gonna take their vacation. I mean,
Can we just take,
Yeah,
write something?
rewrote it.
We can rewrite it. Who wants to write it?
Christie will do a great job.
There.
All those in favor say aye.
We
We
can,
can teamwork.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
teamwork it and, do.
But I wanna ask too
Better.
about vacation time for part-time and seasonal employees. You know, can we call seasonal places and say, do you give vacation time to your seasonal employees? Can we do a call around to see how many places actually do that?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Same thing with your research that,
Yeah, someone can drop a chart. Someone do so. Perfect.
Public comment?
All right, next we have our second public comment. Yes, yeah, you want to come up to the lectern? Let us know your name and what you think.
Is this wide open portion?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Anything.
3 minutes.
I'm looser on the time, but
Most of you remember me, I'm sure. I still haven't heard anything from your FOIA coordinator. It's been over 35 days, so that's
Jeff
put
can
you
hear you.
in a category of willful and intentional. Next step is arbitrary and capricious. Go for it. Anyway, just because you established a policies and procedures that you're required to from the legislators under the act does not mean that your policies and procedures is correct. You must follow the act. It doesn't matter what your policies and procedures say. You can say in your policies and procedures what you do, it says, well, if I don't respond, you can take it as this or that or that or that or that. That doesn't cut it. You have to have it. You have to respond. And even if you respond and say, we don't have the documentation you request, that's what you're supposed to say if you don't have it. So, but anyway, I just wanted to let you know that you're heading in the right direction, for me anyway. So, but the judge will make the determination on the arbitrary capricious part, it's not me. There are also severe fines, I'm not sure if you're aware of those, but in the act, there are severe fines. And because you all have a fiduciary responsibility, you wouldn't want all these people to have to pay for your fines, would you? Because of your negligence, or whatever you want to call it, arbitrary capricious behavior.
yeah, I mean, the taxpayers pay for all of our stuff.
Yes, technically, but it could be money spent on a dog park or something like that,
Right.
rather than 2,500 to me.
Correct.
So, just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, I know, because we talked and emailed a couple of times, didn't we? Since the last meeting?
Yeah, but you don't have anything on the agenda. But here's your
Right.
escape right here. This, right here. This is Township of Excellence, put out by the MTA.
Okay.
You know what the MTA is?
Correct.
I'll gamble that you can't meet it. I'll bet you $100 you can't meet that.
Oh, fair enough, I might take your side.
Huh?
For whatever the qualifications are for the Township of Excellence?
You can't meet it. They require you to meet certain standards.
Mhm.
I challenged this to multiple townships. Nobody's got it so far.
Yeah, the collection.
No township in Muskegon County has ever met it.
Okay, yeah, I believe that.
It's too tough to meet. You actually have to toe the line.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys don't. So you'll never be, there's no way you will be.
Okay.
There's no way you can be excellent. And if you can, then $100 right there. And on your policy there for your vacation, it should be hours, not days. Time. Otherwise, a person can come in, work a couple hours, and that's call it a day, you know? Just a thought. Anyway, keep up the good work, because the next step is arbitrary capricious.
Okay, thanks.
All righty.
Is he a resident?
No,
Are you a resident, sir?
no, he's not gonna answer.
Are you a resident?
Are you a resident of this township?
Yeah, I didn't hear you state their address up
No,
there.
no.
How come you didn't ask for his address?
Public comment right up there.
Yeah. So, anyone else on anything?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all,
Oh,
excuse me, I'm talking, thank you. Bye. Arnold Johnson, 225 Westlake Road. I'm a member of the Sons of the American Legion. Tomorrow night, we're having a spaghetti dinner, $8 from 5 to 7. It's, we're gonna fund our playground equipment. And Friday, I'm also the vice president of the Twin Lake Fireworks Fundraisers. And I'd like to have all you guys show up. 5 to 7, 3rd-pound hamburgers, hot dogs, and corn. It's $10.
Where's that?
Applebee. And spaghetti dinners at American Legion on Home Road. That's all. And I live in town.
Yes, you
Christie was asking, is it $10?
What did you say?
10 for the second dinner, 8 for the spaghetti dinner.
How much does it cost per person? 10?
10 Friday.
Thank you.
It all goes toward fireworks.
I'm Marilyn Tucker, 2747 Lakeshore. I worked for the state for a number of years and retired after 37. I also have knowledge of schools, other entities. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, maybe it'd be a good idea to get a copy of whatever the other townships and school systems or state or feds do for your vacation policy. Make it a whole lot easier instead of spend so much time on it.
Thank you. Very good. Thank
I
you.
didn't think of school systems as a.
Good advice. Thank you.
Summer's up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't sweat it. I'm Al Richards, I live at 5375 Staple Road with a Jesus sign. But anyways, I had to respond to a portion of business earlier in the meeting where somebody was requesting the CARES Act
Correct,
balance
yep.
funding.
And they really meant ARPA. The government gives out so many bailouts and incentives and all the money they expend, it's hard to keep them straight.
So it wasn't the CARES Act.
No.
She said CARES Act in the letter, so I read it that way,
Yeah.
but really the one that's in effect now is ARPA.
Okay.
The CARES
Because of
Act, I
course,
think was
CARES
on the
Act
truck.
was in relationship to COVID-19
Yeah.
and nothing else. And, you know, of course, downtown, Muskegon High School got $36 million in the ESSER funding. And every other school district around the area got 2 for it. And Muskegon High School is building a $32 million building. And so a lot of that type of funding, so it's irrelevant really, because you said this has to do with another source of funding.
Well, but it's still ARPA, so it's designed as the economic recovery type of thing. I mean, so
Related to COVID or no?
Yes.
Yes.
All the money the feds are pushing out is related to that. And
Well, then you should return the money, because you're not buying masks, you're not buying sanitation devices. You're not making placards for your school that says, you know, whatever, before you walk in the building. And you're starting to use the funding for all kinds of things, you know? You can't do that. Why on earth would you think you can do that? And like this gentleman said earlier, it's a form of coercion. I don't know what time I got left, but that's exactly what it is. It's payout to comply and go along. And then you say, wow, we got all this extra money in the bank. Think of what we can do with it. That's corruption. Okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, out of all of that, I disagree with the feds and the states putting out the money. for sure. And I debated that a little bit of pushing for rejecting the ARPA funds before. But obviously we don't make the choice on if the feds or the state is putting out the money, so then the choice ends up being to take it or not to take it. And so for instance, I'm planning on, we have almost $200,000 approved, 197 for the roads. And if we double that amount for that same amount next year, right? Now you're making more of a choice between, do you want to spend $400,000 on the roads or do you not want to, right? It ends up being this board's choice at least. And so it's, even if you disagree with the programs, we don't exactly have the choice over the program here. So then you're disproportionately hurting your individual citizens within your realm for that ideological stance, which is a decent ideological stance. But nevertheless, you're hurting your citizens financially to make that statement.
And you're joining the corruption.
Yeah, I mean, you can make that case.
Of course.
Right? But because our society is so upside down, I would make the case on a lot of that stuff. Living inside of the society, you already are. There's nowhere to leave to.
I dispute that. I think we need to stand for righteousness and do what's right.
Well, and I think that case...
And regardless of what other people are doing.
Well, and that case will be won at those appropriate levels. So it's the fight that's to be fought at the state level and at the federal level, which people are, obviously, those are being debated and worked on in the laws and stuff every which way. So, which is interesting to see. Yeah.
I'm Karen Benner, I live at 4761 Ryerson, and I just had a couple of comments about the dog park. I am a dog person, I have 4 dogs, and if he would let me, I'd have more. But we have 4 kids, so that's probably not gonna happen. Anyway, a couple of thoughts came up. I'm really leery of dog parks. I don't take my dogs there, I never will. In 2 of my dogs' contracts, actually, from their breeder, it says specifically on there that they're not allowed to attend dog parks because of fighting, because of illnesses, because of things. And I know many people here, probably everybody here, trains their dogs very well, and they handle them very well, and they know if they have an aggressive dog to put them in a corner. Unfortunately, that's not how the rest of the population works. So what happens if there's a fight? What happens? Who's liable for that? Is it the owners? Is it the township's issue? If it's the township, I just don't want you to be liable for something if a fight should happen. The second thing that was concerning to me was, I remember a couple years ago there, and still in dog parks, there's a lot of diseases and things. If parvo, if there's a big outbreak, who is responsible for that? Is that the township's responsibility to clean that up? Does it not? I don't know. I just wanted to mention it, make sure it was part of the minutes, something to be looking into.
Yeah.
If you're putting all that money into a dog park, and then you have to put money into cleaning it, I don't know. And not everybody does clean up after their dogs.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rachel, your local librarian, Dalton Township Ranch. This is here, I guess we're going, hi, everybody. Good to see you. Love it when people come into the library and say hi too. Yeah. I've seen. I just want to say thank you to the board for getting up our yellow reflective arrow now that points to the library on 120.
Blue.
I appreciate it.
Blue and white.
Blue and, yeah, the reflective that goes with the sign, the library sign. Had a couple people comment on it.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah.
It's such a small improvement.
It's just a little thing,
I'm happy
but
to
it
have it,
meant
but
something.
it's very small.
So I just want to say thank you.
I was happy to see them.
Good. Anything else? Tracy?
So I just wanted to report out our voter turnout.
Yeah.
We had an election. So, our voter turnout was an average of only 23%. We've got 7,782 registered voters in our township. We had 830 vote absentee. We had 956 vote in person.
Wow.
So, looking for ideas on how to get that, bump those numbers up, because it's your...
Have a general election.
Yes,
My guess
yes,
is
it
it'll
will
jump
go
up
up,
to-
it'll jump
it'll
up,
jump up
yes.
to
Probably jump up to 50%, something like that.
Yeah,
But there's still
November,
work
it's
to
good.
be done.
Good, all right. Any other comments, last call? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion to adjourn.
Support.
Support by Noah, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.